This Romanian economist became famous for winning the lottery not once, not twice, but 14 times in the strangest and most unbelievable lottery tale in history. And the most incredible part, he did it all without breaking a single law. The story began just after 11 p.m. on February 15, 1992, in the Virginia State Lottery headquarters. A janky ball machine spits out 6 winning numbers on live television: 8, 11, 13, 15, 19, 20. As the numbers rolled out, viewers watched with bated breath, not knowing that history was being made.
They didn't hope to win, wish to win, or even pray to win.
Let's play lotto. Our first number is?
Essentially, we covered every possible combination.
Officials would later find out that one person had not only won the $27 million jackpot, but also 6 second prizes, 132 third prizes, and 135,000 minor prizes, collectively worth another $900,000. The lottery officials were stunned. The story of the Romanian economist began at a time when Romania was under Soviet control. As we all know, life under Soviet rule in the 1960s wasn't easy. It was characterized by widespread poverty, chronic job and food shortages, and an overwhelming sense of misery. For many Romanians living behind the Iron Curtain, daily life was a constant struggle to survive. Even the man in question wasn't spared in the ugly situation. Despite his education and skills, he earned a meager monthly salary of 360 lei, equivalent to $100. The paltry sum was barely enough to cover his basic living expenses, let alone provide a comfortable life for his family. Facing such dire financial circumstances, he knew he needed a way to get some quick, substantial money. Usually, people struggling to make a living in communist countries in the Cold War era had limited options. Many resorted to supplementing their meager incomes through illegal activities, risking severe punishment if caught. Others attempted to flee to the West, seeking a better life beyond the Iron Curtain. As for the Romanian economist, he devised a third option. After all, he's an economist with a sharp mind and a keen understanding of mathematics. The particular option was both legal and ingenious. He turned his attention to the lottery, which held the promise of riches despite the bleak economic environment. But what kind of a person would bank on winning the lottery? The odds of winning are slim. In fact, you're more likely to win an Olympic gold medal or have identical quintuplets than win the lottery. Most people buying a lottery ticket often consider it a fun but futile exercise. You know that movement when you daydream of wealth that almost always remains unfulfilled? That's precisely the situation most lottery players find themselves in. Well, this particular man wasn't just a random person. He was an economist and mathematician who had studied numbers and probabilities. Unlike the average lottery player who relies on blind luck, the Romanian economist approached the lottery with the meticulous rigor of a scientist. He spent countless hours analyzing theoretical probability papers, drawing inspiration from the works of the 13th century mathematician Leonardo Fibonacci, whose sequences and mathematical principles had fascinated scholars for centuries. As he later said, mathematics probably applied can guarantee a fortune, a statement that would become his guiding principle. He dedicated many years to researching and developing a system to turn the lottery from a game of chance into a calculated strategy. His goal was beyond defying the odds. He wanted to change them in his favor through the power of mathematics. The Romanian economist is Stefan Mandel. Mandel wouldn't rely on the randomness that governs most lottery play. Instead, he analyzed historical lottery data, looking for patterns in trends that could be exploited. His deep understanding of combinatorial mathematics, a branch of mathematics that deals with combinations of objects, allowed him to see possibilities where others saw only chance. Mandel's research resulted in the development of a sophisticated number-picking system he dubbed combinatorial condensation. Combinatorial condensation is a complex algorithm that involves identifying lotteries where the cost of buying every possible combination is lower than the jackpot prize. The key to this algorithm is to reduce the total number of possible lottery combinations to a more manageable subset that still covers all the potential outcomes. By strategically selecting these combinations, Mandel would ensure he had tickets with all the possible winning numbers. Here's how Mandel's system worked in practice. Consider a lottery that requires players to pick 6 numbers, ranging from 1 to 40, for instance. The setup creates a total of 3,838,380 possible winning combinations. Mandel's strategy is to wait until the jackpot rises to 3 times the number of possible combinations, approximately $11.5 million in this case. And the reason for the wait is simple. If the jackpot reaches $11.5 million, and lottery tickets were priced at $1 each, as they typically were in the lotteries Mandel targeted, purchasing a ticket for every possible combination would be feasible. By doing so, he would guarantee that one of those tickets would hold the winning combination, ensuring a jackpot win. At that time, the method would no longer be a chance. Instead, it would transform the lottery into a risk-free investment. In fact, Mandel maintained that any high school math student could calculate the combinations. This approach guaranteed that Mandel's syndicate would hold the winning ticket, ensuring a return on their investment. However, simply breaking even wasn't enough. He was aware of the overhead costs involved in executing his strategy. These included the logistics of purchasing millions of tickets, the organizational efforts to manage such a large-scale operation, and potential taxes and fees associated with the winnings. Mandel needed the jackpot to be significantly higher than the total cost of the tickets to account for these additional expenses and still turn a substantial profit. For this reason, Mandel set a target for the jackpot to be at least 3 times the total number of possible winning combinations. In the example of the 6-number lottery, with 3,838,380 combinations, a jackpot of $11.5 million ensured that the remaining amount would yield a significant profit even after deducting all associated costs. By adhering to this principle, Mandel not only secured a jackpot, but also maximized the return on investment for himself and his syndicate of investors. However, the method came with some major logistical setbacks. The most significant challenges involved how he would get the capital and how he would possibly fill out hundreds of thousands of tickets, number by number. Some people would have been deterred by the enormity of these hurdles, but Mandel, with his sharp intellect and innovative mindset, devised clever solutions to overcome each one of them. As for the first challenge, which was securing the capital, Mandel understood that his strategy required substantial upfront investment, money that he did not have. To solve this, he turned to a time-tested method of raising funds, pooling resources. Mandel began by identifying lotteries with the right winning combinations to jackpot ratio. These were lotteries where the potential payout significantly exceeded the cost of buying all possible ticket combinations. Once he found a suitable lottery, he would round up a group of investors who believed in his mathematical approach and were willing to contribute to the cause. Each investor would contribute a relatively small amount, likely a few $1,000s each. By leveraging the collective investment of these backers, Mandel could amass the large sums needed to execute his plan. This syndicate approach not only spread the financial risk among multiple people, but also made the endeavor feasible without requiring anyone to make an exorbitant investment. The second challenge was the logistical nightmare of filling out millions of tickets. In the pre-digital age, this task would have been insurmountable if done manually. However, Mandel again found a way around this obstacle. He used the money he got from his investors to print out millions of tickets with every possible combination, which was possible at the time thanks to advances in printing technology. Mandel and his team would then take these pre-printed tickets to authorized lotto dealers, where they would be bought and officially entered into the lottery. With this method, they were able to efficiently manage the vast number of combinations without the laborious process of manually filling out each ticket. Once the tickets were purchased and entered, it was a waiting game. If one of their combinations hit, the winnings would be split among Mandel and the investors according to their initial contributions. This approach not only ensured that they covered all possible outcomes, but also maximized their chances of a significant return on investment. Mandel's first triumph came in his homeland, where he formed a syndicate of 4 friends. These friends shared his vision and were willing to invest in his scheme. They pooled their money, each buying 228 tickets per draw, each ticket with every possible combination. Their collective effort paid off. The syndicate's meticulous planning and strategic investment led to a substantial lottery of 72,780 lei, about $20,000, or $16,800 adjusted for inflation. The win validated Mandel's system and provided the financial means to continue their endeavors. In addition, it also provided the blueprint for future operations. After covering all expenses, including the costs associated with printing tickets and compensating his investors, Mandel still walked away with some profit. Because the Romanian jackpot was relatively small, he only had about $4,000 left after paying off all of his investors. That's not the kind of life he had envisioned for himself, so he decided to explore better opportunities. He was able to bribe government officials from his winnings so he could get a safe passage out of Romania. With these bribes, Mandel secured the necessary documents and permissions, allowing him to escape the oppressive regime and start a new life in the West. Relocating to the West opened up new opportunities for Mandel to replicate his lottery-winning scheme. In the 1970s and 1980s, he set his sights on the United Kingdom and Australia, regions with lucrative lottery systems that fit his criteria for profitable play. Mandel applied his tried-and-tested method of leveraging mathematical principles and collective investment to continue his winning streak in these new territories. Mandel carefully analyzed the lottery systems in the United Kingdom to identify those with favorable odds and sufficiently high jackpots. With the backing of a new group of investors, he orchestrated large-scale ticket purchases, ensuring that his syndicate held the winning ticket and reaped the rewards. For instance, after one 1987 win worth $1.3 million, he was left with only $97,000 after paying back investors and taxes. That was still not enough for him. Then he finally settled in Australia, which served as a fertile ground for his scheme. The country's lottery systems were well developed and larger. Also, the jackpots often reached the high thresholds Mandel required. Once again, he gathered a network of investors who believed in his system and were willing to provide the necessary capital. Mandel's operation in Australia were marked by meticulous planning and execution, mirroring the strategies he had successfully employed in Romania and the UK, but he fine-tuned his formula to adapt to the nuances of the Australian game. In the typical lottery, a set of numbers within a specific range, say 1 to 50, are randomly selected. If yours matches in any order, you win the jackpot. The chances of winning are based on the number of possible combinations of these numbers, often in the millions. Over the years, Mandel convinced hundreds of investors to pool their money together and create a lotto syndicate. He then developed a full-fledged automation system, a room full of printers and computers running on an algorithm that pre-populated tickets with every combination. The development of computers in the 1980s greatly simplified the whole process for Mandel. So instead of writing out millions of combinations by hand, where a single mistake could ruin months of tedious work, he could simply let the machines do the work accurately and consistently. Using computers also enabled Mandel to manage the logistical aspects of his operations more effectively. For instance, he could track ticket purchases, monitor the status of different combinations, and ensure that all possible outcomes were covered. With this level of control and oversight, the probability of winning increased. Throughout the 1980s, Mandel's syndicate employed the strategic approach of waiting until a jackpot was 3 times bigger than the cost of covering all possible combinations, then moved to buy thousands of tickets. With the approach, they managed to win 12 lotteries and rake in 400,000 smaller prizes across Australia, including a significant $1.1 million haul in 1986. The winning came when everyone that came Mandel's way ruled out the chances of him succeeding. Mandel's careful use of math and probability proved people wrong who thought his strategy wouldn't. With his unwavering determination and innovative approach, he defied the odds and achieved what many considered impossible. However, Mandel's system soon attracted negative attention, particularly the attention of Australian lottery authorities, prompting them to change the law. They disallowed a single person from covering every possible combination. The change effectively closed the loophole that Mandel had exploited, forcing him to rethink his strategy. However, little did they know that at that time, Mandel's biggest hack was yet to come. At this juncture, Mandel faced a critical decision. With the new regulations in place, continuing his operations in Australia seemed impossible. But Mandel was not one to give up easily. Instead, he began to explore opportunities beyond Australia's borders, looking for other lotteries where he could replicate his scheme. He was determined to find a new playing field where the odds were in his favor, and where he could once again employ his winning formula. His search led him to the United States. He began by scouting all over North America, including Montreal, Miami, Phoenix, and Norfolk, compiling a list of lotteries with favorable conditions. Then, he considered 6 U.S. lotteries, including Massachusetts' $37 million jackpot to 9 million combinations, Arizona, $11 million to 5.1 combinations, and Virginia. He ultimately settled for the Virginia lottery. Virginia's lottery offered several advantages. It was relatively new and allowed players to purchase tickets in unlimited quantities and print them at home rather than at a cashier. But most importantly, its numbers only ranged from 1 to 44, unlike other states whose numbers went as high as 54. The implication is that with 6 picks, there were only 7,059,052 possible combinations, compared to the usual 25 million plus. Mandel set up an agency with a major insurance company. Under the shell corporation Pacific Financial Resources, he established a trust called the International Lotto Fund, the ILF, and convinced 2,560 people to buy a 10-year whole life insurance policy with a $4,000 annual premium. He then used the money, legally, to buy each person a stake in the lottery. In a Melbourne warehouse, he set up 30 computers and 12 laser printers and hired 16 full-time employees to print millions of tickets pre-populated with every combination, a process that took 3 months. He then shipped the 1 ton of paperweight to a point person in the U.S. at $60,000. With the tickets secured in Virginia, he had to wait until the jackpot hit a number that would make financial sense after taxes, overhead, and paying off investors. A state lottery prize typically begins in the low millions and increases every time a drawing goes with no winner. When you see those incredible $758 million jackpots, it means nobody has won in quite some time. Mandel had to wait for the right time to strike while hoping for the best, that there wouldn't be multiple winners to dilute the pot and ruin his margins. On February 12, 1992, the Virginia lottery jackpot hit $15.5 million, setting the stage for his biggest and boldest operation yet. With the jackpot now exceeding their target threshold, Mandel's team received a simple but powerful order to execute the meticulously planned strategy that Mandel had spent years perfecting. As Mandel knew, the buy all combinations method of winning the lottery was fraught with logistical challenges. The real test was just beginning. Tickets could be legally printed at home, but the challenge was getting them to an authorized lotto retailer in the U.S., paying for them at $1 each, and processing them properly. Strolling into a gas station with 1.4 million tickets and a truckload of cash wasn't an option. To handle the financial aspect, Mandel hired the accounting firm Lowe Lipman. They transferred $9 million of investor funds to Crestar Bank in Boston, which then issued $10,000 cashier's checks. With the financial groundwork laid, Mandel struck advance deals with various Virginia-based retail chains to buy tickets in bulk, ensuring a streamlined process. However, executing this plan required someone on the ground to coordinate the operation. Mandel turned to a trusted associate named Anathali Alex for this crucial task. Alex, a charismatic figure known for his smooth-talking abilities, was perpetually outfitted in a gold Rolex and a safari suit. His diverse background included stints as an ex-paratrooper, a Rolls-Royce salesman, and an oil prospector. Despite his ventures, Alex often sported a t-shirt that humorously read, "Please, Lord, let me prove to you that winning the lottery won't spoil me." Alex was the perfect point person for Mandel's operation. His persuasive skills would later help him to navigate the complexities of the task. He could make even the most daunting challenges seem manageable, a talent that was invaluable for this high-stakes venture. When Mandel called, Alex had just come out of bankruptcy court, burdened with $400,000 in debt, and 16 maxed-out credit cards. The financial strain had left him desperate and ready for any opportunity that promised substantial money. Mandel's offer was a beacon of hope, and Alex, who was anxious to turn his fortunes around, jumped at the chance. His job was nothing short of harrowing. He was tasked with coordinating the drop-off, payment, and processing of 1.4 million lottery tickets at hundreds of stores spread across the entire state of Virginia. This task required that Alex juggle numerous responsibilities simultaneously. The jackpot hit $15.5 million on a Wednesday. The next draw would be on Saturday. This meant that he and his team had just 72 hours to pull it off. On February 12, 1992, just 3 days before the crucial lottery draw, Alex checked into a Holiday Inn in Norfolk, Virginia. He converted his hotel room into a command center, positioning himself for the task at hand. But Alex realized he needed a more expansive workspace, so he moved to the nearby Koger Center, an extensive business park spanning 88 acres. Amidst the maze of buildings, he established his headquarters where he would set all plans in motion. There, Alex met with a team of 35 couriers hired by Mandel. Most of these couriers, who were certified accountants, were handpicked for their reliability and attention to detail. Each one was entrusted with bundles of 10,000 lottery tickets, meticulously wrapped in cellophane and accompanied by stacks of $10,000 cashier's checks. For 2 straight days, the couriers methodically descended on 125 gas stations and supermarkets. At Farm Fresh, Miller Mart, and Tiny Giant locations throughout the region, flummoxed store clerks were asked to buy and process 1.4 million algorithmically generated lottery tickets. Although the store clerks initially balked at the sheer number of tickets they were being asked to process, there was absolutely nothing technically illegal about an individual purchasing thousands of single tickets. "We thought they were nuts," Rick Miller, a local gas station proprietor, later admitted. "But if someone comes up and says they want to buy 700,000 lottery tickets, we're not going to chase them away." A representative at Farm Fresh, who sold a portion of tickets to Mandel's team, had a more spirited take. "For someone to try to do this ticket by ticket is a very chancy proposition," he said. "But that's what Lotto's all about." Since nothing wrong was being done, the plan moved forward. By Saturday evening, the team was nearing completion. Then, disaster struck. One of the chains that sold tickets in bulk got overwhelmed and quit in the final hours, leaving 140,000 tickets, which also equals 700,000 combinations, on the table. When the deadline for entry arrived, around 1.24 million of Mandel's 1.4 million tickets, 6.4 million of 7 million combinations, had been processed. His foolproof plan, which relied on securing every single possibility, was in jeopardy. Winning the lottery would ultimately come down to luck. Mandel knew that without 100% of the combinations secured, his strategy would be reduced to a multi-million-dollar game, of course. He also knew of other ill-fated attempts to game a U.S. lottery by bulk buying tickets. For instance, in 1990, a Sacramento retiree bought 30,000 tickets with a diaper bag full of cash and walked away empty-handed. Months later, a computer engineer known as the Phantom purchased 80,000 combinations at a Jacksonville, Florida bar and only won minor prizes. Even if Mandel were to win, there was the possibility of multiple winners, a scenario that could significantly dilute the jackpot. At 11:20 p.m. on February 15th, the numbers were drawn on live television. In a nearby warehouse, Alex and his team waited with bated breath. Tensed atmosphere, everyone enjoying the grave silence the warehouse provided as comfort while they focused their attention on the television. Then, a victorious shout. They had won! They won! According to Alex, when the $27 million ticket came up, everybody was 6 feet off the ground. It was the most incredible thing in the world. Purchased at a Farm Fresh in Chesapeake, the ticket had been processed in the twilight hours. Alex's diligence had paid off. Nobody has ever developed a logistical system to dislodge such a large amount of play slips, Mandel would also later boast. We were the only winners, and that was it. From his home in Australia, Mandel sent out a short message to his 2,524 investors. "One of our target lotteries dig jackpot to our required level," he wrote. "We entered and won." The $27,035,142 jackpot and $900,000 in secondary prizes were to be paid out in 20 annual installments of $1.03 million. But Virginia's lottery czars had other plans. Although completely legal under both U.S. and Virginia state law, the Australian group's feat was interpreted as an effort to cheat the traditional system. We might remember Thomas Jefferson's view of a lottery. Virginia Lottery Director Ken Thorson pled to the press. It is an opportunity for the common man to spend a small sum for the possibility of a higher prize. We never anticipated a group trying to make such a large purchase. Mandel was subjected to an investigation involving 14 international agencies, including the CIA, FBI, IRS, National Crime Authority, and Australian Securities Commission. While his winning methods were technically legal, authorities raised questions about the ethics of exploiting loopholes. Thus, Mandel was accused of fraud and manipulation. The legal battle threatened his freedom and fortune. However, neither he nor the ILF was found guilty of any wrongdoing. Eventually, the Virginia State Lottery released his winnings to him. "I will live to be 150, he proclaimed. "I am not the type of person who lays down and dies because some glorified clerk doesn't know what he's doing." Meanwhile, in his home country of Australia, he became something of a folk hero. An article in People magazine described him as a kangaroo hopping out of the U.S. with a pouch full of cash, defiant, victorious, and full of life. And what became of the mastermind? When the dust settled, each person who'd bought into the lottery through Mandel's life insurance policy, small business owners, machine operators, housekeepers, and doctors, made out with about $1,400. Some were not pleased with this outcome. Stefan Mandel is not only irrelevant, a disgruntled investor later quipped, he's toxic. Meanwhile, Mandel paid himself a one-time consultancy fee of $1.7 million and purportedly sold the annuity on the 20-year payout to a U.S. insurance company for a lump sum of $14 million. After overhead fees of $5.5 million for the tickets and $500,000 in expenses, he was left with a princely sum. Records show that he funneled this cash into the Pacific Basin Fund, a Hong Kong-based account managed by his brother-in-law. "What we calculated to be the reality has changed," he wrote in a 1994 letter to investors. "It may not seem such a hot investment now." After that, his investor updates went cold. But just a few years later, in 1995, Mandel declared bankruptcy. Obviously, his ventures beyond the lottery proved less successful. Like Mandel, a lot of lottery winners end up blowing it all, spending it on huge houses and fancy cars. Some gamble it away. Some get slammed with lawsuits. Little wonder Robert Pagliarini, a certified financial planner, had suggested that lottery winners assemble a financial triad to help plan for their financial future so they don't get into similar situations. The financial triad includes an attorney, a tax person, and a financial advisor. As posited by Mr. Pagliarini, the financial dream team can shield lottery winners from the media and the onset of money requests from others. As for Mandel, he would spend the next decade running various investment schemes, one of which earned him a 10-year jail sentence in Israel for the, quote, alleged non-publication of a prospectus in a cooperative society. Mandel's attorney said his conviction was later overturned and that Mandel never spent a single day in prison. Today, Mandel spends his days at a beach house on a remote tropical island in Vanuatu, a country off the coast of Australia known for its volcanoes and waterfalls. There, he lives a quiet life and reports being retired from the lottery. Speaking to the Romanian newspaper Bursa back in 2012, he said, "I'm a man who takes risks, but in a calculated way. Trimming my beard is a lottery. There is always the possibility that I'll cut myself, get an infection in my blood, and die. But I do it anyway. The chances are in my favor." As for Anathali Alex, his one-time associate, he also dropped off the grid and keeps a low-profile life somewhere around Illinois. "You could not have written a script as good as this," he reminisced years later. "This one-time real life was better than fiction." Though we were able to piece together the logistics of Mandel's 20-year lottery career, he's never revealed the minute details of his algorithm. As he told an inquiring AP reporter in 1992, that would be like Coca-Cola revealing the recipe. His legacy lives on in U.S. legislation. All 44 states that run lotteries have enacted laws to avoid a replication of Mandel's strategy in the future. Individuals are no longer allowed to buy lottery tickets in bulk or print their tickets at home. In effect, this lottery win secured Mandel the title of the first and last man ever to successfully gain the lottery by buying every possible combination. He's indeed the steady hand. And that's the end of Mandel's record-breaking lottery-winning story. His story isn't a fantasy. Instead, it is a remarkable saga of an economist who cracked the lottery code with nothing more than ingenuity, math, and a healthy dose of risk. So what do you think about his huge lottery wins? Intelligence or just pure luck? Don't hesitate to share your thoughts in the comments section below. Also, don't forget to smash that like button and ring the notification bell for more similar videos. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.